Welcome to Sexy in Your 60s. I'm Dvora Citron. We're in season 2 now, and this season we're going deep on making friends in midlife, the real work of it, the joy of it, and why it matters more than most of us realize. My guest today is someone I have known for years, a woman from my community in the local La Miranda area who recently made a move that I've been thinking about ever since she told me about it. Micki Cooper has always been one of those people who is deeply connected. Rich friendships, a full life, a multitude of interests and creative talents. And yet, when the time came to think about the next chapter, she and her husband Bob made a deliberate, intentional choice. They moved to Rossmoor, a 55-plus community in nearby Walnut Creek. Not because they were lonely, not because they needed rescuing, but because they looked at this stage of life and thought, what kind of environment do we actually want to be living in? And they chose one built for connection, for accessibility, for staying active and engaged, and surrounded by people who are in the same chapter of life. I find that choice fascinating, because I think most of us drift into our social environments rather than design them. Micki and Bob decided. I'm glad to have her on the show today. Please welcome my friend, Micki Cooper. Micki, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for asking me, Dvora.
So you and Bob moved to Rossmoor from Orinda, where I live. And I will say anecdotally that you and your family are one of the reasons we moved here, because we were good friends in Oakland, where we met. Actually, it's going to be 36 years ago when our children were in the same toddler program at age 2. And well, you've always been well connected wherever you are, but I want you to start from the beginning of the thought process and what made you start thinking about this move that you just recently made?
We were living in a very large home. Bob was getting tired of taking care of everything that breaks down with home ownership. But I think the real impetus for thinking about where we might go next was I was starting to have some hip and knee issues, and we lived in a home with stairs. So to make our life easier, it felt like we should be all on one level. That then won't be an issue. And I'm happy to tell you I have not had hip and knee pain since we moved here, now that it's level in and I'm not handling those steps every day multiple times. The other reason, it might sound negative, but it's really not, is that we have always had a very connected community. Friends are vitally important to me. And one of the reasons we came to Rossmoor is we're only 15 minutes away. So I wasn't losing that other community. And that was the part of it that meant a lot to me. Now, a lot of people in Rossmoor move here from all over, a lot from our area actually, but from all over because their children have moved here and they want to be near their grandchildren. That is not our issue. And when we thought about where would we move near family? It wasn't going to be our children. One lives in Korea, as you know, and one lives in Scotland. So that wasn't going to happen. But we also knew we didn't want to leave our friends. So we didn't want to move to another community far away and start over in that way. We looked for 2 years to find the right property. And when it showed up, we were ready to go. And we did it very quickly, as you know. So that is how we ended up here. And one of the reasons I wanted to start looking in a community like this is I really wanted us both to develop more friendships and circles. And I love meeting new people. I love making new friends. Bob, as a lot of men, he has friends he golfs with, but he huge amount of friends that aren't friends because we're couples. And I really felt as we're getting old, you never know what's going to happen. And if anything happened to either of us, I wanted us to be in a place that felt comfortable, that we had developed circles. It was easier to live on your own. So hopefully that's not going to come into play for a long time. But I feel like that was accomplished with this also.
I know one of the variables for you guys as a couple is golf because you
True.
belonged to a country club that had a very nice golf course, and that Bob is a big golfer. And
Right.
so Rossmoor also has that too. I'm sure that was a
Right.
huge part of the consideration from the beginning.
Well, you know what's funny about that? It was a big part of the consideration for me. He keeps claiming that that isn't what it was, or that isn't what he was looking for. Um, so, but I know him, and I know that that would be something he would like to be able to take part in a lot and easier. He doesn't have to drive anywhere. I mean, he's right by the golf course. So it opened up that late in the afternoon, if he wanted to go out and hit a few balls, he could.
Hmm.
Easy. So,
Yep. I'm really familiar with that routine because, as you know, my mother lives in
right.
Rossmoor and she plays golf regularly, but that means a few holes.
I
And
know that.
it's pretty easy for her. I also know, just anecdotally, that it's not easy to find a level in property at Rossmoor because,
That's true.
ironically, even though it's a 55 plus community, I don't know what the percentage is, but most of them have steps. And so those businesses, that my mother supported, that give you the
Oh, the chair.
electric
Chair.
chair that takes you down to your, either out of your front door, or for my mom it's in her garage, from down to her garage, her
Level. Yeah.
car. Um,
That's true.
mhm. You don't need to get
Yeah.
one of those.
Yeah, it's an interesting community. It's over 50 years old, and it initially was built for teachers and public workers and things like that. So it wasn't necessarily older people.
So it's interesting because my parents moved there in 2001, so that's 25 years ago.
Right.
My mom was younger than I am right now when they moved in. And I know at the time she felt like she was the youngest one there, which I actually don't think that's the situation anymore. I know more and more people my age and younger who are moving there, but I'm curious to know, when you started to tell people you and Bob were moving there, what kind of reaction did you get?
Well, it's interesting. I think some of them started reacting. I was at a party and somebody who I don't know well, but know, and we were telling him we were moving, and it was almost like his face changed. Like, oh, you're going into an old person's. He started talking about assisted living and about, dementia care and whatever. And I was like, no, it's not that. So there is some misunderstanding about what a community like this is. It's definitely not that. And if you need those services, you need to be somewhere else, because, or you have to have the means to hire someone to live with you.
Hmm.
But anyway, yeah. So I think a lot of people think that. I think once they come over here and see where we're living and the grounds and our house, it's sort of like, oh, that's you. That looks just like you, just smaller. So, yeah.
I know that they have amazing facilities and recreational
That's what they
facilities,
do.
and it's really a gorgeous property. And
That was important to us when we were looking, was that, we were in Orinda. Our house looked back at the hills. We were down kind of, not a valley, but somewhat, where we were surrounded by all that. And I love that. I find it very peaceful. And that's exactly what I find here. So I walk to my house, I go outside. I feel like I'm on vacation because I've
that's
got that greenery, and it's a lot easier to be here.
lovely. So I want to touch upon the science of loneliness
Hmm.
because it's one of the biggest health risks for us, especially women, as we're aging. And there's a lot of research that shows that a shared environment and repeated interaction are two of the most powerful conditions for forming real friendships. Now, I know that you just recently moved, but I understand that you've already started establishing friendships, which is no surprise to me. Tell me a little bit about that experience.
So, well, I knew moving here that I wanted to be sure that we knew our neighbors and I wanted to reach out. I guess what I found, this is kind of interesting, it's going back, but when COVID hit and all of a sudden we were all in our own homes and I was walking my dog all the time. So you ended up meeting a lot of people in your immediate neighborhood. There were a few people who lived there who were my good friends, but there were a lot who I didn't know. Nobody was ever outside or anything except walking their dogs. But once it became that, I became really good friends with dog walkers. And it opened up a whole nother level of friendship to me, another circle of friends. And so when we moved here, I was sort of like, you know what? I'm not going to stay in my house. I realized there were people on my street that I'd never been in their house. So I was out on the street and I would wave and say hi to everybody. And we live on a cul-de-sac, so that makes it easy. I mean, there's, 32 living spaces right around here. And as it turned out, I felt very lucky because I met a number of women who I just instantly connected and had fun with. Lovely, all ages. I do want to address what you were talking about age. There's a lot of people that are younger than us. I mean, if you walk around, you might see a lot of people with walkers and elderly, but you go over to the fitness center and you go to the programs and you realize, no, it truly is 55 plus. The other thing is that only one person has to be 55. So it's possible if people wanted to get into a smaller space or whatever, you could come in even younger. So there is a narrow range of ages, but wider than you might expect. Anyway, so in fact, this was really sad for me. So there was a woman across the street who I'll just give first names, Brenda, who she just was so fun and nice. And Brenda's in her mid 80s, okay? And the two of us just hit it off. Brenda had been on a waiting list for 2 years to move into an assisted living place down near her daughter in Palo Alto. And lo and behold, it showed up. And so she moved out within a few months of me getting there. And honestly, Dvora, I went over to her and I'm sort of like, I've only known you a couple of months, but I think I'm going to cry. I said, I feel so close to you. I also have a neighbor, neighbors just on either side who are just welcoming and warm. A lot of people invite us over for drinks. I've made a list for myself of these are the people I want to have over. Couldn't be easier. I mean, to meet people if you put yourself out. And I think that's true for anybody, anywhere. I have connected, I don't know if you're going to get into this later, but I take art classes here. They're right here. I joined a book club. Yesterday there was a club fair that you walked around and find out. There's a couple other ones on my list. I find we're part of a neighborhood group that sits outside once a week. They call it Trash Talk. And we sit on somebody's driveway and just chit chat and talk about what's going on, whatever. That's once a week. My cul-de-sac has had 2 things already out on the street where we just get together. You bring your own drinks, you bring something to share to eat. So people are open to these kind of things. And I find that amazing. We never did that in Orinda. So,
well, yeah, I love what you're saying. And I knew that was going to be true for you. That's why when you told me you were thinking of moving there, I was so excited for you because I just think it's a fabulous community. And I know that they have such active groups and clubs of all different kinds. Yes. I mean, one of the ways you can see that, even if you don't live there, as we've talked about before, is Rossmoor has a great newspaper. And you just read that newspaper and you think, oh my gosh, I want to live here. This is such an active, vibrant community. Right. And there's people of all different varieties there. And so, one of the things that we're highlighting here is the concept of affinity groups.
Right.
Groups that you have a specific interest in or background in. And so you join that and you already have something in common with those people. So there's that. But then there's also, like you said, people, not everybody, I'm sure, but people move there with a mindset that they want to be connected. They want to be connected in this new way in midlife and beyond that they weren't connected before. You and I met because literally our toddlers were in the same program.
Right.
But if we were meeting there today, we would be meeting because, hey, I moved to this community because I want to make new friends and live amongst them so that I have easy access to them and we
Right.
can do things together. And I know I'm going to see you almost by default.
Right. So that's interesting because it is by phase of life. I mean, when we met and our kids were little, when they were really little, we spent a lot of time together. As they got older and they did their own things, it's not that we grew apart, we just didn't see each other as much. So you go through that where your life really is based on your kids. And then college, whatever. But you do get to this point where it's not just an empty nest, but it's truly empty, like they're on their own, they're married, they got their own thing, whatever, versus college or whatever, where they're still there, even though it's an empty nest. And I really looked forward to that because so many of my friends I had connected to because we had kids. And it's not that we're not good friends. I wanted to know other people's stories. I wanted to meet people who hadn't been in that same milieu as me. And you, people are incredible. And people here are so talented. And so they'll go, oh, yeah, I did art too. And then you go in their house and you're like, oh my God, no, you're a real artist.
Well, if you're saying that, because you are so talented and you always dismiss.
Honey, yeah, no, you should see, but smart. And they come from, they all had very active professional lives. And so you get the wisdom of all that. I think you and I talked about this too, and I'll talk about it regarding Brenda and all, with the people who are a lot older than you. And I found this earlier when I got involved at Stagebridge when I was in my 60s. And so that's, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a group in Oakland that does creative classes for seniors. And when I would go in those classes and see the people with their walkers doing these plays and doing whatever, I was like, that's who I want to be. I want to be curious and I want to put myself out there and be open to new experiences. And it's wonderful to see that because it can happen. You have to be out there to see it.
I think, the idea of putting yourself in a new space where you don't have expertise, you maybe don't know anybody, you're in this extreme experience of really, it's even discomfort, but you're brave and you're courageous and you're doing it because you want to grow, you want to evolve, you want to connect, and you want to engage. And that's really what we're talking about when we discuss the concept of active aging, healthy aging, keeping our brain, our body, and our heart always, developing, right?
Right.
So,
opening up your heart for even more people, for even more causes, for even more, because you're finding out about them.
So tell me, you mentioned the arts and crafts because that's one of your strongest traits. And you said book club, and those are things you were already doing. Has anything sparked your interest that you've seen that you might consider stepping into that you don't have experience in?
I actually have experience in these, but I might go back to them. So yesterday I told you I went around this club thing. There's a very active drama group here. And it's not just acting, but it's also directing or learning how to be a stage manager or this or that. And I'm going to look into that because I really enjoyed Stagebridge, learning how to act and learning how to be a storyteller. So see what that offers. The other one, what was the other one I saw yesterday? Oh, a writers group, which I love because it's called the non-published writers group. So it's basically no pressure. They do have a published writers group, but if you want to work on your stories or you just want like-minded people who like to do that, gives you another outlet to do that. And the one thing I know I should do is go to the fitness center and get into some kind of a routine there because
That was my next question. Have you visited it yet?
I have not. I have not.
Well, I don't know. You could always take me with you, but I might be too excited when I get there. But I know that
Have you been there with your mom?
I think I went there once, when they first moved there. So I'm sure it's different now, but I think that strikes me as one of the strongest features because of how important it is for us to stay committed to a physical fitness routine. And I think I told you, I literally just came from meeting with my new personal trainer. And my assumption is that at their fitness facilities, that the people working there that you could work with are particularly trained and have expertise to support healthy aging physical fitness routines. And I know just from looking at, like I said, the Rossmoor newspaper, that they have so many different classes and fitness facilities and pools. And even if you didn't do any of those, you said you're already doing walking in your neighborhood. And, I know from just being there at my mom's that walking around the main golf courses is a wonderful walk with lots of mileage available to you.
And up in this area, there are incredible hiking trails. And there's actually a labyrinth that up on top of one of the hills that is just so peaceful. I mean, wonderful. The other thing I was going to say, even if you're not a person who likes being as physically active as you are, or whatever, there are other kind of sporting things you can do. There's bocce and there's lawn bowling and there's table tennis. Those keep you moving. So it's not just working out in a gym if that's not your thing.
And there's dancing. I know they have dancing too.
Yes.
And I think what's probably really nice is, like you said, a lot of people move there locally, like you guys have done. But a lot of people are moving from out of town, let's call it.
Yes.
And so there are plenty of people that are coming in as newbies, and you don't have to worry that you're going to be the only one.
Right. Absolutely not. People I've met here, one woman moved in so we moved in February. She had moved in the previous October. There's one across the street who's only been here 2 years, things like that. Another one who's only been here 2 years, where they're still getting acclimated too, because there's just so much, and you've moved to a new place and you're getting, into your own routine and whatever. So I think over the course of the next few years, we will be more involved. And also, as you change and find new things, they're probably here because there's over 200 clubs.
So that's always struck me as such a positive environment to live in compared to, and I'm not criticizing or judging either way, but people who want to stay in their home as they age, run the risk of, as they become potentially less mobile or less connected for whatever reason, run the risk of becoming more isolated, which, as I was just pointing out, loneliness is one of our biggest risk factors as we age. And Rossmoor,
I think it's even gotten to be a bigger problem ever since COVID, when people went into their homes, and it did change things. And also because of the internet, people are spending way too much time on their screens, whatever, instead of, this is face to face. This is, you're meeting people and actually talking in real life, if you want to say it. I'm kind of interested, and you may want to talk about this later because it's not really, it's connected, but it's not. But you said for women, the loneliness. I can't help but believe that's true for men too. Men in general aren't as connected as women.
well, I agree with you. I mean, I'd have to go back and kind of look at that research, but I wouldn't make the assumption that it's just women. One of the things I'm guessing is women live longer. And so there's a bigger population of older women, which I'm guessing you're going to be able to see that as you meet more people.
I do. there are certainly a lot more single women in here
Mm-hmm.
living by themselves that
Mm-hmm.
I've
Mm-hmm.
seen
Mm-hmm.
than men.
So there's two topics I want to ask you
Hmm?
about also, which you may or may not have some experience with yet. One is your medical situation. Has that changed for you? Is it easier? Are there more challenges?
I told you it's like physically, it's better. I don't have to deal with the stairs. That's a great thing. Um, I
What
think
about,
mentally it's better. Also, I'm so at ease here. It's almost like I feel, even though I haven't worked for a long, long time, and Bob's been retired for 12 years, I almost feel like, oh, this is what retirement is. This is what we get to do in this phase of our life.
I ran into someone yesterday who said retirement is 6 Saturdays and a Sunday. Well,
Or as in Downton Abbey, what's a weekend? Right. So,
so what I'm specifically also interested in what is medical access to medical
oh,
care. Has that been impacted for you? Have you seen that yet?
well, I hate to say I've been seeing a lot more doctors about different things, but the nice thing is I'm very close to Kaiser here.
Okay.
So access is incredibly easy.
Much
Um,
easier for you as a Kaiser member.
just because I'm closer, it's more logistics, I guess, than it is access because I can
Mhm.
see anybody I saw before. But now it's sort of like, oh, I can be there in 15 minutes. I don't have to make the 30-minute whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's been a lot easier. I need to get something from the pharmacy. It's not that big a deal.
Yeah. And many listeners may not be familiar with our local area, but Walnut Creek is just an incredible hub of shopping, entertainment,
Yes.
lots of medical care,
Yeah.
and access to BART if you don't want to drive.
Right.
So that's really geographically, it's a fantastic location. The weather's good. It can get kind of hot, but I'm
Hmm.
assuming everybody's got air conditioning.
One
Um,
thing I can say about living in these lower units is they stay cool. So far, I'll talk to you in the middle of the summer,
yeah,
but we're really like surprised at that. Both Bob and I are very comfortable in
good.
the house all times. So,
So I know you and Bob enjoy travel a lot. And has that area of your life been impacted at all with your move?
um, you know, it has just because we've moved recently in terms of traveling a lot, although we've traveled a lot. But I think what's nice about it is just you lock and leave and you feel more comfortable that you're in a gated community. Not always true. There have been things that happen here, but to us, that it feels like that. And that's really nice. And you're not worried about your lawn and your plants. Are they going to die or this or that? You just lock it and leave. So a
Okay. So it's made it a little bit easier.
little bit
Um,
easier.
I
Yeah.
know that from reading the Rossmoor newspaper, they even have so many different travel programs from going on trips for weeks at a time to going on outings locally
A
for the
day.
day.
Yes, they have that. They also, a lot of times for the shows at the museums, they have a bus. You can sign up and take a bus into San Francisco to see a show and then come back and not have to worry about driving and parking, which
That's
I
a
think is
bit,
great.
that's a big deal.
Because even with BART, you can't get to all the museums. So to me, and Broadway shows, whatever, they have all that stuff. I mean, just reading the calendar, it like makes you tired.
So, do you think you're going to take advantage of those?
I don't know. We'll see. Those don't sound like things Bob would do with me, but certainly with if a girlfriend and I wanted to go see a show, that's an easy way to do it.
To girl travel.
You girlfriend? No kidding. There are a lot of things that you do with your girls.
Yeah, and I'm curious. I'm just thinking like I feel like living in this kind of community supports active, healthy aging in a special way. And so as you make friends, and even you've always had friends that are older than you also.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I just got back from this trip to Morocco, and one of the highlights of my trip was making friends with the oldest women on the trip who were so vibrant and healthy and exciting. And I've got to think that really supports that, whether you have a partner or not.
Absolutely. And it's also, like we said, that's who you want to be. So not only seeing that as a role model, but creating that. And I would say also, I wish there was a way. The one thing I don't have here is how to connect with younger people so that there's really a lot of different generational stuff. I mean, I
So,
have my friends' kids when I see them, but it'd be fun to be in a book group with all ages.
so when you say younger people, do you mean people that either are younger living in Rossmoor or
Oh,
not, or
no, just in general.
mhm,
Yeah,
mhm,
I mean more like our kids' ages,
mhm, mhm,
30s and 40s, something
mhm.
like that, or even 20s. I would love it. When I took some classes at Ali, and and that's at UC Berkeley. It's a program
Right.
that's, yeah,
Mhm.
run at a lot of universities for senior learners. But one of the classes I took that I loved was we were part of a class at Berkeley. And if this was during the time of Zoom, but you met these kids and you heard their thoughts on different things. And I think I'm very interested in all that, how different people think about the things that are going on in our world.
Well, I'm curious to know if that would be a possibility for you to do from Rossmoor, if they would
Oh, sure.
make a connection. And obviously, I'm not suggesting you add more to your to-do list, but there are plenty of volunteer opportunities. I know, as somebody who just retired from being the school nurse at the local high school, that
Uh-huh.
not the one that's the closest to Rossmoor, but second closest.
Yes.
I've always wished there was a program pairing the Rossmoor, I'll say seniors,
Mm-hmm.
with high school students, because I did that when I was in high school growing up in Los Angeles. And it was such a rich and valuable experience for teenagers to have real, consistent connection with older people. And just to know, like you're saying, like just because someone has a walker or they're in a wheelchair doesn't mean they have had such a rich life and maybe still do.
Right.
And you're making a judgment just by looking at a piece of
Right.
equipment they happen to be needing to use right now,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
So, oh
Um,
well, two other things to develop, perhaps.
so for someone who you meet at a party, let's say, or
Mm-hmm.
knows that you've just moved into this really wonderful, amazing 55 plus community, and they're curious and maybe even skeptical, what would you say to, let's just say, for example, a single woman, even though that's not
Mm-hmm.
you, what would you say to them right now?
Somebody who's not living here or somebody
But
who is?
but kind of someone who is not yet living there, but
Oh,
considering it.
oh, um, I would tell them many of the same things I told to you about my experience. I would suggest that they spend some time meeting with a realtor and seeing the different areas for sure within here, because there are differences, to be able to figure out what works best for them if they were to move. Um, I'm very positive about all this. I'm telling you, from the morning I first woke up here, I walked outside and just was like, oh my God, this feels so good. Anytime I walk outside, it's just like I walk out on my back porch and whatever. I'm really happy here. I and I feel like that is a change from my old house. Um,
And do you feel like it's a surprise for you?
um, I think I was expecting it, but I'm happily surprised that it came through. I was expecting that it would be nice to live like this in a smaller space. I like this. It's homey, it's cozy. So for that, those were my only fears, were like moving from a larger house to a smaller house. Would it feel too small? Would it be, I have to get rid of so much stuff? Those kind of things. But it
What?
wasn't, I have to say that I have a dear friend who's lived here for 25 years. And she has lived in 3 different homes here. And
Okay.
I have been coming over for years to walk our dogs together. So I know what's around her, and she's real involved. Um, and so I wasn't just moving somewhere I knew no one. I knew her. And from her talk about everything that goes on and whatever, I thought that can work for me. So,
So you had a role model and an example.
right. I call her my older sister.
Oh,
She's
that's
7 years
great.
older. So,
I know one of the things that you've done that has really made it a good experience for you is you came from a beautiful home, large, that you had decorated just with such artistic talent. You could be an interior designer. And I'm sure it was challenging, but you very intentionally and carefully made sure to take elements of your beautiful home and bring it into your new home in which you were downsizing. But, I've had the opportunity to visit and it's like, oh, this is still Micki.
right. I showed pictures to my nephew. I took him on a video tour. He is an art connoisseur and an artist himself. He works in nonprofits now, but he is an artist. He went to art school, and we always talk about things like that. And I took him around. He goes, "Well, still you. It looks like you." And that's what I wanted to feel like. I always loved that feeling in my home. So it feels like me. I just reuse different things in different ways. I think the dog likes it too.
So you're so familiar with what I've been doing with Slanta plants and Sexy in Your 60s. And you've been so supportive, which I completely appreciate. Um, and I feel like you are in an environment where you're going to be able to have a more vibrant life,
Mhm.
more energy, more positivity. And I will have to change the name of my program because it's not including everybody I need to include, even though the subline is for women 50 and above. But Micki, I ask this question to everybody at the end of the podcast, but I want you to answer it with the thought, like, especially with you living in this new wonderful environment, what does sexy mean to you right now at this time in your life?
So it's interesting. Ever since you had told me that you're going to end with that, and I was like, that word doesn't ring for me. So I thought, well, what does ring for you that is like that? And what's so funny is the first word that came to mind was vibrant, which you just said. It's also curious, keeping open to new things, and connected, and creative, which I am in as many ways as I can be. And it kind of all adds up to being alive, being vibrantly alive.
Well, I will add, because I know you so well, and I've had the honor and advantage of knowing you for decades, that you have this magnetic energy. And you reflected that when you said how much you like being around people. And to me, that is sexy.
Thank you.
So I want to thank you for being on the podcast today. And I look forward to spending time with you in Rossmoor. I hope I get to be a guest in some of those exciting activities.
I Anytime you want to come, I have told you, and also you need to come and see what I've done with the place.
Great. I'm Dvora Citron. This is Sexy in Your 60s. If today's conversation resonated with you, please consider following the podcast, leaving a review, or sharing it with someone who might need it right now. That's how these conversations continue to grow. I would love to stay connected. Come find me at slantplants.com/contact. And if you're curious about the Sexy in Your 60s coaching experience, get on the waitlist at sexyinyour60s.com. Until next time, take care of yourself, stay curious, and stay boldly, beautifully sexy exactly as you are.